Kia ora, Courtney. I'm Raywin from the Rangitikei District Libraries.
Kia ora, Raywin.
Presented in Marton.
Oh, it's lovely.
Children are going to introduce themselves.
Great.
I'm Flynn from James Cook School. Talawhanawa ko he kai takuinga. I am 8 from James Cook School. Hi, my name is Zach from James Cook School.
Oh, beautiful intros. Lovely to meet you.
Over to you, Sue.
Thank you. So hello, I'm Sue from Hamilton City Libraries, and hiding over in the back is Gamita.
Hi, I'm Gamita from Hamilton City Libraries.
And these guys are all from Hamilton East School, and they can introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Angel. Stick your head in so everyone can see you.
Hi, my name is Anhel. I'm here in Hamilton East School from the library.
Lovely. Go next.
Hi, I'm Lucy. Hi, I'm Haley. I am Rohan.
I'm Christine. I'm Natalia. I'm Afiga. I'm Antonio.
And hiding over to the side, we've got Emily and Tyson. They're just off school today. So it's lovely to meet you, Courtney. We're really excited about having this time with you. Raywin, would one of you guys like to start with their questions?
Okay, so who's going to go first?
You go first.
Zach's going to go first.
Have you heard or visited Marton?
Speak up, darling.
Have you heard or visited Marton?
Have I ever visited Marton?
Mm.
Am I hearing that right?
Yeah.
No, I haven't before, but my gallery assistant who I work with here, so I'm Zooming you guys from my work in Auckland. We're on Karangahape Road, and as well as being an author and a performer and a very proud stepmom, I've got a 4-year-old, a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old, so I love seeing all of you guys because that's my life. I'm also the director here at Tautai Contemporary Pacific Arts Trust. So what we've just done really recently is just opened up a brand new gallery space just for contemporary Pacific arts and artists, which is the first of its kind in the CBD here in Auckland. And it's really exciting to be able to kind of share this time and space with you all. And I just want to thank you on behalf of Tupaia as well for taking the time to actually read this book and for taking the time to put together some questions for me. So I just wanted to let you guys know where I am in case you're wondering, where is she zooming from? Where is she beaming in from? Yeah.
Question?
What inspired you to become a writer?
Oh, that's a really good question. When I was a little girl, my mother was actually the very first person to read her own writing to me. So I'm lucky because my mother is a writer. So when I was a young girl, the first poems that I ever heard weren't Shakespeare's poems, which of course I came to learn later in life. I love sonnets, I love the Petrarchan form, all of that, Shakespearean form too. But the first poems that I ever connected with and the first writing that I ever connected with was my mother's. And I grew up in a very musical household as well. So I've always loved story and narrative.
How did you choose your illustrator?
Oh, well, it was quite a big process because the museum, Auckland Museum, were opening up a really big show about Tupaia, and it was so important for them that they had the right author and the right illustrator to work with. But it was pretty easy for us. I mean, look at Matt's artwork. Isn't his work is just stunning. I was really blown away. I was absolutely blown away by his eye for detail as well. So one of the things that made me really want to work with Matt is that he's somebody who gives 100% of himself. So even if he knows something's not quite right, he'll ask questions. And Matt and I had a really good working relationship together. And one of the ways that we had a good working relationship is that we talked a lot on the phone. We had a few lunches in real life, and we checked in with each other as much as we could. So it's just like, you know, when you guys have projects in school, and you've got to collaborate with people in your class or people around you. And one of the key ways is through good communication, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, would you like to answer this question?
Well,
Yep.
Is writing your dream job? Did you always think you would be a writer?
You know what? It is actually my dream job. I've always wanted to be a writer. My whole life, even when I was a kid, that was always the thing that I really wanted to do, to grow up and publish books. But then as I got older, I realized that my passion and my love for writing came from somewhere even bigger and deeper than that, which is really around women in leadership as well, seeing women be published. Women's voices are very important to me. Women of colour. Queer leadership as well, very proudly queer too. So basically being a writer for me, it's been a really important journey because I understand that I speak on behalf of communities that often aren't heard. So it's really an honour. It's an honour to be able to publish works and to get them put out. But I would love a future where every girl who wants to publish a book has access to that.
That's very cool, isn't it?
What was the first book that you wrote?
Oh, the first book that I wrote was actually a book of poems called Brown Girls in Bright Red Lipstick. And it was really exciting for me because I got to launch that book in Germany. And I had never even been to the Northern Hemisphere at the time. I'd been to Australia a lot and lots of the Pacific Islands, but I'd never been all the way to Germany. So that was totally new experience for me. And I made some really, really great friends on that trip as well. So it was special.
Do you have a dog?
I do have a dog.
Oh my God.
I have a dog and she is so spoiled. She just got new pajamas last week because it's getting colder. So she's got these beautiful little pink woolly jammies. I actually have to show you guys a photo of my dog. Her name is Sadie Rose and she's a Dachshund Shih Tzu. My question back to you though is, do you have a dog?
Yes.
Dog people always ask about dog people ask that question. I don't know if you can see this, but you have to see her in her new pajamas. Hold on. Here she is in her new pajamas. Can you see that? Those are my bubbas.
We can't see because our camera of us is in the way. Could you hold it up again?
Hold on, I'll see if I can get like a bigger photo of the dog. This is when she had a little groom. That's her having a little groom. I was talking about her. A dream dragon. She was very, very shabby, and then this is after lockdown, we had to take her for her first groom, and I thought, oh, she looks exactly like dragon. You guys are a bit young for that. I don't know if you've seen that movie, you know.
I have. It's a really
great,
good movie.
right? It's a great movie. She looks just like that.
I see that movie.
Okay.
How long have you been writing?
Well, my earliest poems, I was really, really young. It was before I actually went to school. Because my mother is a writer, she was always really big on me learning how to read and write from a very, very, very young age. But I'd say the poems that I first started to share with people wasn't really until I was around maybe like 10 years old. So by then I had just written a few little poems and a few little songs, and then I was starting to really let my friends know, hey, I'm a creative, I love words, I love story, this is really who I am.
That's cool. Inspiring.
Do you sit down and write the whole book, or does it come in sections?
That is a really cool question. Well, I always like when I've given lots of writing workshops all around the world, and I've taught in literature, so world literature, Pacific literature. And one thing I've always said to, I don't want to call them students over the years, I'll just say to writers of all different stages over the years is, you know, if you live this really great life, if you live a full life and a rich life and you always have something to write about, that's really where you should put your time and your energy. So people have this notion that to write a great book, you have to sit down and write it all in one block. But oftentimes how you're inspired to create, or the ideas that kind of come to you, those moments can come often when you're nowhere near a pen or a piece of paper or your laptop. You might be spending time with friends and family and you get really inspired, all these great ideas sort of come to you. So for me, I think I've just tried to find lots of different ways to write to kind of keep myself always engaged with my craft. One thing I've told people that was really helpful to me, and it might be helpful to you if you ever do want to write a book one day or write a book of short stories or anything like that, is to physically write different parts of your book in different parts of your home or in different parts of your office. So instead of telling yourself, I'm just going to sit here in this one spot and write the entire thing, if you write a different chapter in a different room in your house, or if you write, you know, like at a friend's house or at like somewhere local that you might go to with your family, you'll get a different kind of voice coming out of you, and you'll be often surprised and sometimes delighted.
Amazing how that works.
What authors have inspired you?
Sorry, what? Sorry, can I hear that again?
What authors have inspired you?
Oh my gosh, so many authors. I love Elizabeth Barrett Browning. I love Roxane Gay. I love the works of people like, I want to say Junot Diaz. You know, I did really, there were some of his works that I thought were fantastic. He's had a little bit of Me Too media happening though recently, so we really need to take note of that. But when I was in the States a few years ago now, I actually travelled with 35 other writers, and getting to spend time day in, day out with writers from Palestine, with writers from Finland, people like that. So I've got like a lot of peers around the world as well who I just really treasure, people like Henrika Tavi. Yeah, I mean, if there are women around the world who are kind of creating, getting their works out, I really want to know about it and I want to be a part of it. So there are lots, but I also love songwriters too. I think that you'll find some of the best writing from songwriters. Tom York of Radiohead, I think there are so many beautiful lyrics there. I'm showing my age, but truly, what a band. What a band. Nina Simone, I mean, just so many people that we're really lucky to be a part of the works and the words that they've put out.
Do you like to read fiction or nonfiction?
Oh, that's a hard one. Look, I think if there's a story in there and it's interesting to me, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, I'm really interested in it. And I think I'm probably more at a point in my life now as well where if I get books sent to me by friends or if I get asked to review something, I'm kind of in that space where I'm like, oh, I'd love to kind of get to know a little bit more about this and read a bit more about this. And people are looking at the written word in new ways all the time. My partner is actually working on a publication where she's basically taking the idea of a festival that was supposed to happen during lockdown, and we all know a lot of projects couldn't happen then, and she's turning that entire festival into a book. So I think it's a really exciting time for publishing, and I think it's an exciting time for you as budding authors and young thinkers and people who want to put your dreams and your ideas into the world. There are so many different ways that you can be published. So not just thinking about fiction or nonfiction, but we're kind of breaking down those boundaries or barriers now in terms of this is only this genre, this is this one here too. So it's a bit long-winded, but...
What is your favourite part about being?
My favourite part? I think my favourite part has always been like the unexpected parts. You know, like when you're young, you look forward to kind of just getting your book. You just want to hold your book. You're so excited about that. And that was all I was looking forward to for so long. And then one day after I had put out Brown Girls in Bright Red Lipstick, I actually got an email from a woman in Australia, and she said that she loved the book so much and it made her feel so empowered that when she left her abusive partner, my book was there next to her in the car as she drove away. And that's something I would never have imagined. And so there can be, I think, a real power to your writing. There can be something on the other side of what it is that you put into the world. So I've learned a lot over the last 10 years, because in the beginning, all I looked forward to was just holding the thing. And now I understand that my books are the lucky ones because they get to go into people's homes and they get to be part of someone's life. I've been at the mall before and I've had people come up to me, like a family came up to me once. I was just going to get some lunch and she ran over and she said, "Oh my gosh, your book is here in my bag. I take it with me everywhere." And it was a really special moment that I never would have imagined. Someone's just taking my book around a mall. I've had people take photos of my books around the world and send it to me, and I think it's always unbelievable. You know, I'm never getting to that point where I feel too big for my boots, or I think I'm so amazing. Every single time someone reaches out, it's really special. It's really special. It is a lot of work, and you do have to work with a lot of people, and collaboration is key, and you do have to do so many different things to kind of make that dream work. But in the end, it's completely worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Back to you, Raywan.
What was your favourite book growing up?
That's hard, but you know what? It's not too hard because I've kept so many of my books. I've actually kept like a little library of my childhood books. I loved The Northern Lights. Lyra to this day is still one of my very favourite protagonists of all time. She's so gutsy. I love that she goes after what she wants. I mean, Harry Potter, of course I read Harry Potter like everyone else did. Right? We've all been there. None of us could stay away from that. I mean, it's fantastic writing. But when I was a kid, I really loved books like The Jolly Postman. There was a whole really cool Mercer Mayer series that came out where it was books like Just for You. You know, just really,
those ones.
you know, those books, they're cute and twee. The Kuya and the Spider, you know, like lots of really cool books like that. And I'm lucky because my mum, as I mentioned, is a writer, but she was always coming home with really cool children's books for me. I've got this one, Visiting a Museum at home, and it's seriously like 30 years old now or something, this book. But it's so neat because it's all sort of like cartoon sketches, but as you turn the pages, they've got these great works of art inside of the cartoons as well, and the characters are kind of looking at different artworks, talking to each other about the art. And I always really loved that book, and I just think it's kind of funny and a bit full circle now to be running a gallery and to have a book like that at the beginning of my life.
It is, isn't it?
How old were you when you decided to become a writer?
Well, I think I've always written my whole life, but a really big move for me was when I was at university. So I was actually doing a law and arts degree. So you do a conjoint where you're doing 2 degrees at the same time. And I really wanted to become a lawyer. I was in my 3rd year of study. And then I also really wanted to become a writer and an artist. And I basically got to this point where both of my passions were sort of neck and neck. I could feel them inside of me, but they were also kind of conflicting passions. One half of me wanted to just convey the beauty of the world and the intangible, and then the other half of me was constantly trying to find the reason for everything, the precedent for everything, the rationale behind everything. And eventually I realized I wanted to keep both voices, but that the justice I was seeking belonged on the page. And that was the place for me, that was where I was going to make or create or even attempt to create change in the world. So that was basically in my late teens, early 20s, I decided that this was really the life that I wanted. But it's not like that for everyone. It's not always linear, and you have the complete right to change your mind at any point in time, as long as, and I've told my brothers and my boys this too, you can always change your mind as long as it's an informed change. Change your mind, but make sure it's an informed change. That's all.
Where's your favourite place to write?
Oh, my favourite place to write. Well, it's funny having that little cute dog I was telling you about, because anytime I do sit down and try and get into the mode, it's like she knows. She knows I'm trying to write, and she'll do this thing where she jumps up on me. Last year through the summer, I was actually the kind of like the Asia Pacific judge really for the Commonwealth Short Story Prize, which is the biggest short story prize in the world. And there I was reading literally millions of words from all around the world, and I have this dog that keeps jumping up on me. So I have this nice little sunny room at the back where I like to go and sit and kind of, put down my thoughts and bits and pieces like that. And it used to be very quiet back there, but now Sadie likes to sort of join in. Over the years, I've always just loved writing at home, really. Anywhere at home for me is sort of the perfect place to write because I feel most comfortable at home. I can play all my music. I love writing to loud music. And also I've got all the tea there that I love. Let's be honest, we all like a good cup of tea while we're writing. And some of the coolest writers that I've managed to meet, I've asked them, how do you write? And people have often said, at home, with a nice cup of tea, or at home with some cake, or at home, whatever it is that kind of makes you feel settled and comfortable.
Wow. How did you find out about Tupaia?
How did I find out about Tupaia? Well, I think I've known about Tupaia really since I was a girl, but he wasn't presented to me nearly with as much factual framework as this. When I was first told about Tupaia, it was more that there had been a navigator with Cook and he was Polynesian and that I should know that. And the reason that my family wanted me to know that is so I would understand that the kind of the origins of the story of New Zealand, or how things came to be, that we had a part to play in that as well. And I remember being a child thinking, who is this figure? That's really interesting. I've never really heard of him before. And then kind of as life went by, more and more people would talk about Tupaia now and then. And then he came back into my life again when my publishers rang me up about this opportunity, which was exciting. And I was familiar with him by then and had read up a bit more and researched him a little bit more.
How many books have you written?
Oh, 4, and I'm working on 2 more at the moment. So it's, and it's kind of, it's staggering when I think about it, because in the beginning of my journey, I just thought I'd just love to write 1. That would be really exciting. But I think writing The Adventures of Tupaia and writing children's books is so cool and just really, really special. And I've loved children's books all my life. So for me, I'd love to write more. The next couple of books I'm writing are for adults, but I'm not going to stop writing children's books ever because it's just way too much fun.
Where do you get your ideas for what you're going to write about?
Well, I think it's kind of like what we were talking about before, where if you write in a different place, you'll write different material. So this idea around inspiration is one that I'm very familiar with, because people all around the world want to know, how can I stay inspired? And one thing I say to people is, just go somewhere new and the inspiration will come. The inspiration will come. So depending on where you are, I think different works can kind of come from you.
If you weren't going to be an author, what else would you do?
Well, I think most authors now would tell you really have to diversify. So being an author, yes, I'm an author, but then I'm also a performer. I'm an arts manager. I'm a director of an arts trust. Over the years, I've done lots of different roles. Actually, I've worked in tertiary. I've worked in commercial accounts, all sorts of different things. But the one thing that has always tied my different interests and my different roles together has always been my love for writing. So any job that I've done, a lot of it has heavily been about writing.
So if you hadn't been doing writing, you could be a completely different person. You could be doing completely different things.
That's completely true. Yep, on the money there.
That's a lot of things.
is the longest time it's taken for you to write a book?
My longest time? Oh, well, with my very first book, it took me 5 years really to put those works together and to feel like they were complete. But then with the Adventures of Tupaia, it didn't take me that long at all. It didn't take me long to write it, but the editing afterwards and the rounds with my publishers and with the illustrators, that was a totally different part of the process. So sometimes the writing part can be really fun because it all comes to you and you know how you want it to be and you've done your research and it just all sort of clicks. But it's the next part in the phase where it's the editing and back and forth and sitting around with huge A3 sheets of all the spreads and going through with your red pen, making sure you're looking over every last word. That's the part of the process that can really take quite a bit of time.
Do you write on paper first or straight into a computer?
Well, it depends. I mean, I love my laptop. I'm one of those, I'm definitely guilty of being a laptop person. I love writing into it. I've got lots of journals. I'm a big believer in journals. I've got lots of moleskins at home and different sorts of journals. This is a beautiful one that was given to me by my cousin actually for a birthday a couple of years ago, and it's handmade in Italy. And I'm not saying, you have to have fancy handmade in Italy journals, but one thing that I do love about journals is that each journal can represent a different genre. So for instance, I might have a journal like this at home and it might just be for poetry. And then I might have a journal next to it, which is a totally different color, and it might just be for story ideas. And then I might have one next to it and it's just for travel writing. So that's the really cool thing about journals is that each journal can represent something different to you.
What is the longest book you've ever written?
The longest book was definitely Tale of the Taniwha. And that was thousands and thousands of words, but in some ways it's really hard around quality and quantity, because when you know exactly what it is that you want to say, it can come out and it can just flow out. Whereas writing The Adventures of Tupaia, some of the challenges about writing a book like this, first of all, there weren't any children's books really about Tupaia. I don't think there are. So there's that. Secondly, it's dealing with a real figure from history. So you can't just make it all up from inside of yourself, even if you wanted to, because it's not a work of fiction. But then at the same time, you have to kind of really honor this character and breathe life into that character as well. So that process, that sort of mental process, the book might not be as many words, but it might take you just a totally different route within your mind as to how you get from the idea of the book through to actually completing it.
Can you give us a hint on what your next book is?
Oh, hints for the next book. Well, I can tell you one is another book of poetry, which I'm really excited about. And the other book is actually going to be something quite different. It's quite experimental. I'm working with a sound artist and a visual artist. Yeah, a sound artist and a visual artist. And the two of us are kind of collaborating on something totally unique. So I'm really looking forward to presenting that and putting that out into the world next year. It's going to be early next year, I think, when we launch that. And all I can say, and I can promise that it is going to be different. Definitely.
That's really cool. Rowan.
Where did you live growing up?
Where did I live growing up? Well, I lived always in Auckland, but all around Auckland. So lots of different places, mostly in the CBD, so mostly near town. And then I grew up, obviously, and I kind of, I did live in an apartment not far from here too, right in town. But at the moment, I'm actually in West Auckland in Avondale, which I love because I can see out to the Waitakere Ranges and it's nice where we are.
Why did you want to tell the story about Tupaia?
Well, I think It's a really important story, and it's a story not many people know. And what I was talking about before, like being committed to the representation and the honouring of different worldviews and of different voices, it was a no-brainer for me that I had to take on this story as well, because it's really about Polynesian leadership, and it's really about a different worldview. And it was also an interesting challenge for me as a very proud feminist to write a book. It's full of guys. It's just all guys. But, you know, being the woman behind all of those men, and actually, I think, giving something a bit different to their perspectives and how they were kind of viewing those historical moments, that was a huge privilege to be able to do that. So I kept reminding myself through the process, you are the woman in the story. And there will be young women who read the story, and they'll see themselves in it in their own way as well.
How did you feel about becoming a finalist for the Children's Young Adult Book Awards?
So excited, so completely excited. Yeah, I got the email and I was totally thrilled, and I wanted to tell everyone, but I couldn't. It was embargoed. But as soon as I could tell everyone I wanted to, I did. Yeah, I was really thrilled. It's a big deal for me, so I'm really excited.
You have to keep it a secret.
Yep, you do. And they let you know good news, but you've got to wait. You've got to wait until they announce, and then you can announce. So
Do you have a
the hard thing about being an adult is all the good news that you get, often you can't share it straight away. That's right, eh? Isn't that right? I'm looking at it. All the good news you get, you have to wait until that person tells it.
Do you have a spirit animal?
Do I have a spirit animal?
Spirit.
Oh, you said a spirit animal, and I was like, I like how you're thinking. Maybe I should keep something else for Sadie to play with. And then when you're like spear, I was like, what could be spear? It could be a guinea pig. It could be all sorts of stuff. I think we all like to believe that our spirit animal is like a lion or a tiger, or like, you know, like some big, huge thing that kind of comes out. But if I'm honest, my spirit animal is probably more in the region of being a unicorn or a pony. That's probably more who I really am, deep down. What about you? Have you got a spirit animal? I want to know if you've got one.
No.
You so do. I can tell you do.
Mine is a red cat.
Go on.
That is cool.
Thanks, it's laugh. I'm lazy. Did you travel to Tahiti to research about the Adventures of Tupaia?
I didn't. I really wanted to. I was wide open for an invitation or to being sent there to research. That would have been so amazing. But we were very lucky that like a Tahitian language speaker worked on this book as well. There were 2 different curatorial teams. There was a big team from the museum. There was a navigator that worked on this too. There was myself. There was Matt. So it was a big whānau around this book, and I just trusted the people that were on board.
Would you like to make a movie about your book?
Yeah, totally. Now that you've said it, I've never thought of it, but yes, I would love to make a movie about Tupaia. I think that would be great.
This is my last one. Who is your favourite author apart from yourself?
Okay, I like you. It's funny, the first person I'm thinking of is Patti Smith. I think she's a fantastic writer, and she's put out some great work. But my favorite author, I love the work. I heard the owl call my name, Margaret Craven. I just think it's a beautiful work. But then at the same time, I really like the Stone Diaries as well. Carol Oates, that's incredible. But there are so many. I can see them all competing in my mind. Like, what about me? Pick me. There are lots of works that I love, and I have a place in my heart for all of them. But probably my greatest, most favourite sort of like series of works would be Sonnets from the Portuguese. It's just tender and beautiful, and the way that she works within that form is just unreal.
I'm just trying to remember all those names so I can look them up when I get home.
You're like,
because I've never heard any of them. I need to look up. I can't even, I've forgotten now.
Like, honestly, you know, a lot of singers, I think, a lot of musicians and people like that have really inspired me. And I should also just say that people in my own family and in my own community, it's natural for us where we are to always be looking out to the rest of the world. But, you know, the funny thing that I never expected, when I got out into the rest of the world with my work, I realised just how special New Zealand really is, and I realised how unique our stories really are. And I had a whole new appreciation for the communities and the people that we have here. We have a connection here and a joy here and a togetherness here I've never seen anywhere else in the world. So it's a very special place to create from. And I know I'm going to be reading your books one day, I can tell.
Oh,
I can tell.
Okay.
I can tell. It's my challenge to all of you. I'm going to read a book by all of you one day.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Are the illustrations in your book exactly what you imagined?
I think Matt completely blew my mind. So one thing you do if you're working with an illustrator is that you'll write the text, and then when the text is finished, you'll go through and you'll make sort of notes, like illustration notes. So you might say, here's what I'm talking about here, or here's what I think I'm referencing here, here's what I mean. But you have no idea how things will look, or you have no idea too about the creative freedom of the illustrator, which you really have to honour as an author as well, to just trust the illustrator and their creative vision. So when I had the some of the sketches back from Matt, and I was looking through, and I honestly just about fell off my chair. I was so stunned. I just thought it was the most beautiful work. He's just so good at what he does, really. It's gorgeous. Like the way that he makes characters look lit up just by using that beautiful kind of corally peach colour. It's so clever.
Why do you like to write?
Well, I think what I like to do is to contemplate and to slow down. Some people go to church for that. Some people like to garden. Some people have, different community groups that they might get together with, and they have some stillness and some peace together. And I really have found that place for me within my own writing. There's nothing I love better than just being able to sit there with a nice cup of coffee and just let my thoughts completely flow. If anyone here was excited about getting your own writing sort of kick-started and some tips on things that could help with that, one of the things I would say, especially as a young person, because you have such an incredible imagination right now, you have the most freest imagination possible. Challenging yourself just to write for 10 minutes every day, put the timer on, put the alarm on, 10 minutes every day, and you don't stop. So the premise is it can be about whatever you want. Literally, there's no rules. It can be whatever you want, but you have to get it done and you can't stop. Don't edit, don't cross out, don't do this. You just have to keep that pen working. You have to look at your pen and you have to repeat after me. You work for me.
You work for me.
You work for me. Tell your pen. You work for me. And then you just, every day, if you do 10 minutes every day though, think about how that adds up. 10 minutes every morning, what is that in a week? If you're doing it on weekends as well, then you're getting up to 70 minutes of writing in 1 week. Think about that in a month, in 6 months, and then in a year, you've probably got a whole book.
Inspiration.
Pardon?
How do you get your inspiration?
I think I'm always inspired to just sort of try out new things. You know, I've definitely got like very curious mind, and I'm interested in working with different people as well. So I always approach books as a collaboration, because you do have to work with your publishers, with your editors, if you've got a PR team that comes on, or anyone in comms and marketing as well. So it's quite cool, because people talk about writing as being lonely, but publishing is very collective.
Has anybody got any more questions that you'd like to ask Courtney?
Do you like pineapple on your pizza?
I do. I'm going to be honest. I do. I know it's controversial,
It
but
had to be asked.
it has to, yes.
Most important question of the hour.
Raywin, have your students got any more questions?
One more.
What's your favourite food?
Oh, a really good one. I'm salmon. I'm a huge salmon fan. I love it.
Because
It's my favourite, especially beautiful.
Salmon.
Like, I love seafood. I do. I love kaimai.
I like seafood.
I love oysters. I love it all. No, it's great. Yeah. I love squid. I could go on. Seafood.
Yeah.
People who don't like seafood, I'm like, well, it's good to be friends with them, because then you get the seafood, right? Make friends with people who don't like seafood if you love seafood, because then when you're out together and you say, should we get some oysters? And they're like, oh, I don't want that. And you say, oh, I'll have your share.
Well, you can say about anything, really.
Yeah, give me a share of oysters.
Especially if they don't like ice cream. Hey,
Oh, yes.
you
Yeah.
get ice
I'll
cream.
help you out with that.
I want pizza. I like chocolate and ice cream together.
Ice cream flavored pizza.
Weird
Or pizza flavored ice cream.
Ooh.
Ice cream pizza.
Wonderful. Thank you, Courtney, so much for your time. I think everybody's learned heaps. I know the adults certainly have. I'm sure your kids have.
I learned she likes pineapple on her pizza.
Yeah, that's a
That's
I got
important.
one more question.
Oh, yeah.
How old were you when you wrote about Tupaia?
How old was I when I wrote about Tupaia? Gosh, I was 32.
How old are you right now?
I'm 34.
2 years ago.
I know.
2 years ago, so that would be
It was 2 years ago. I know what you're thinking. She looks like she could be 60 or older, but
No.
I'm feeling it now.
Complete opposite. Yeah.
She looks like she's in her 20s.
So do you want to say?
Man, you guys, I'm sending you all KFC after saying that. That was so nice. Thank you. I'm sending a whole box to you saying that.
Fine, thank you.
Yes.
I really enjoyed getting to meet you, and honestly, like, I just put it to each and every one of you and to your librarians as well. Let's stay in touch, and if you do write any bits and pieces, or you've got a story going and you want someone else to give it a read, send it to me. Sometimes it takes me a little bit to get back, but I'd love to see it. So keep writing, keep reading. You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Raymond. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.